welcome to the channel. So today we are going to go through nerve tissues. So this is another anatomy lecture for the human and physiology combined. Okay, so today we are going to talk about nerve tissues. Okay, so nerve tissues are one of the tissues that we are continuing with. So objectives, we are going to describe the structural features and as well as functions of the nervous tissue. Okay, then despite the awesome complexity of the nervous system, it consists of only two principal types of cells, which are neurons and neuroglia. These are the two principal cells that it contains. Okay, then we already established that it contains of neurons, which are known as the nerve cells, and the neuroglia. So neurons again consist of a cell body and processes extending from the cell body, so which are known as the multiple dendrites and the single axon. Then the neuroglia do not generate or conduct nerve impulses but have other important supporting functions. So the location of the nerve tissue is of course in the nervous system, and the function is to exhibit sensitivity to various types of stimuli and convert stimuli into nerve impulses, which comes in form of what we call action potentials. Then also conduct nerve impulses to other neurons, muscle fibers, or glands. So this is how the neuron and the neuron and the neuroglial cells. So the nerve tissue, of course, they are the cells of the nerve tissues. We have established that we have neurons and neuroglia. So let's talk about the neurons. So neurons have a long and shorter processes. They respond to stimuli. Their membrane, or they undergo what we call membrane depolarization, and whilst the glial cells, okay, they do not carry impulses, and they have a trophic and support effects of nerve tissue. That's about the glial cells. So let's now talk about development of the nerve tissue. So the nerve tissue develop from the ectodermal germ layers beginning in the third week, and the ectoderm on the mid-dorsal side thicken to form neural plate, and the lateral sides fold upwards and fuse to form neural tube. Then the cells of this tube give rise to CNS, including glial cells. Then the neural crest cells develop into PNS and other non-neuronal cell types. So CNS is central nervous system, then PNS is the peripheral nervous system, for those who don't know that. Okay, so these are what we are talking about: the neural folds, the neural growth, the neural crest. Okay, this is what we are talking about. And after the neural folds and neural growth form from the neural plate, then the neural fold elevate and approach one another, and as the neural fold prepare to fuse and form the neural tube and also epidermis, neural crest loosen and becomes mesenchymal. Okay, then finally the mass of the neural crest cells initially lies atop the newly formed neural tube. That's what happens. Okay, so the neurons. So these are functional units of both CNS and the PNS, and they are cell bodies or pericardion. They have cell bodies or pericardion, or they also have dendrites. They have synapses, and they have the axon. Okay, so this is what we are just talking about. So they have dendrites, they have the cell body which we are talking about, and they have the pericardion, then the cell body has the nucleus and the nucleolus, Okay. Then you have the axon hillock, you have the axoplasm, the axonema, neurofibrils. And this is together is the axon beneath the myelin sheath. Okay, this is the myelin sheath we are talking about. Okay, then where uh, and this part exactly, if you get this part, that's where the synapse is. Okay, so I think we can make progress. Okay. So classification of neurons. So neurons, we can classify them as multipolar neurons, bipolar neurons, unipolar or pseudo unipolar neurons, anaxonic neurons. So this is a picture of the multipolar neurons. Okay, and they have one axon and two or more dendrites. They have one axon as indicated, but two or more dendrites. Okay. Then most neurons, they are the most neurons in the body. Then let's go now to the bipolar neurons. Okay, so they have one axon and one dendrite. So they have one axon and one dendrite. Those are the bipolar neurons. Okay, and they are found in retina, olfactory mucosa, inner ear, cochlea, and vestibular ganglia. Okay, then this is the unipolar or pseudo unipolar neuron, okay, which have a single process that bifurcate close to the pericardium. So this is what we are talking about, having the single process that bifurcate and they bifurcate close to the pericardium. This is what we are talking about. Okay, this. Okay, so that's the axon. They have the peripheral process and the central process, and the single short process here, and it has bifurcated as shown. These are found in spinal ganglia and also cranial ganglia. And this is an axonic neuron, so meaning they don't inside have an axon. So have many dendrites, but not through axon. Okay, then do not produce action potentials. Then they regulate electrical changes in adjacent neurons. These are axonic neurons. Okay, and then those are the classification. Now the structural classification. Then the functional classification. We can say we have the sensory neurons, which are afferent and receive stimuli from the receptor throughout the body. Then you have the motor neurons, which are efferent and send impulses to affect organs such as the muscle fibers and glands. You have the somatic neurons, which do voluntary control. You have the autonomic, which are involved in voluntary control, and you have the interneurons, which generally the multipolar and establish a network. Okay, so let's move. Then the nerve tissue can have the gray matter, which is made up of pericardion in CNS, and you have the white matter, which is made up of axons in CNS. That's the nerve tissue. Then the cell body, as talked about earlier, is known as the pericardion. Okay, and it contains the nucleus and the cytoplasm, and it's a trophic center and have a euchromatic nucleus and large nucleolus. It is highly developed real, meaning that there's nuclear substance and nuclear bodies. Okay, so RER, that's the more of the left endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, then the Golgi apparatus only found in the cell body alone. Then the mitochondria is found throughout the cell body, usually abundant in axon. That's about the cell body. Then they have, of course, it has neurofilaments. Then the dendrites, so we are done with the cell body. Now the dendrites usually short and divided like three branches, usually covered with many synapses, and they increase receptive area of the cell. and the diameter becomes thinner as they divide, unlike the axon that maintain nearly constant diameter. Then the area occupied by dendrites is called the dendritic field. Okay, so we're done with the dendrites. Then the axon. So the most neurons have only one axon, and usually very long process, and they originate from a hillock, and the plasma membrane is called the axolemma, and its contents are called the axoplasm. Then has almost a constant diameter and branches less profusely. That's about the uh, that's about the axon. So we are done with the neurons. Now let's talk about the glial cells. So the glial cells, of course, they don't conduct electricity, but they support neuronal survival and activities. Then about 10 times abundant in mammalian brain than neurons. Then, like neurons, they develop from progenitor cells of embryonic neural plate. So this is another type of a neural of a glial cell, the oligodendrocytes. Okay, this is how they look like. So the oligodendrocytes produce myelin sheath of axons of neurons in the CNS, and they provide electrical insulation and are the predominant cells in the CNS white matter. These are the CNS glial cells. Then one oligodendrite may ensheath several axons. Then another glial cell is known as the astrocyte. Okay, like this one. Okay, that's an astrocyte. Okay, so these have a large number of radiating processes, and they are found in CNS, in the fibrous astrocytes, typical in white matter. Then protoplasmic astrocytes are typical to gray matter. Then these are the most common source of brain tumors, the astrocytes. Then another type would be the ependymal cells. So these are cuboidal or columnar cells that line the ventricles of the brain and the central canal of the spinal cord. Then in some CNS location they are ciliated, then are similar to epithelial cells but lack basal lamina. Okay, that's the ependymal cells. Then we have the microglia. So these are motile and evenly distributed in both white and gray matter. Then originate from circulating blood monocytes or mesodermal. Okay. Then they act as a microphage. Then we have the Schwann cells. So this is Schwann cell, cytoplasm and plasma membrane, which begin to form consecutive layers around the axon. So the Schwann cells are also known as neuroremocytes. Okay, and they are found only in the peripheral nervous system, and they originate from neurocrest cells, and they form the myelin around the segment of one axon. So there we are done on the Schwann cells. Then you have the satellite cells of ganglia. So these are derived from the neurocrest cells and have a trophic and support effect of on the PNS. That's the satellite cells. And you saw now you have to do a checkpoint where now we just show you that some of the things that you have to remember, or some things that you have to ask yourself and answer. So the main question is, what are the functions of the dendrites, cell body, and axon of a neuron? So these are what are the functions of the dendrites, cell body, and axon of a neuron. This is what you have to ask yourself at the end of this. Okay, then that's all for for today. Then thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell notification, and see you in the next tutorial video.